Good morning and welcome to the show. Today we're going to do an outreach case review, or rather a case study based on outreach that I have received. And today it's going to be an email. Now it's important to do this because everyone is trying to sell something, so we all need to know how to approach it right. As you'll find today, the person who sent me this email outreach is an entrepreneur, is come up with some sort of software or some sort of service that's supposed to help me book guests on the show. And so the reason why I use these examples is not just so that we can figure out the best way that we should go about looking for potential people, potential customers to talk to, but also to give you guys to give you guys a breadth of the kind of services and business opportunities that are out there. Because not everybody has to be a business consultant or an architect or a wedding photographer or a farmer or a carpenter or a banker or a lawyer. There are fantastic new and interesting horizons that are coming up out there all over in the world. So, now I'm going to read you the actual email copy, and I'm going to try and hide the name of the business and hide the name of the founder, because the whole point of this exercise is so that we can learn together and not because I'm trying to embarrass anyone. So, this is the actual email copy. I'm reading it right now. Hey, I found sales for the Nigerian business person on Apple Podcasts. As a fellow podcaster, I wanted to reach out to connect. How's the show going? Is there anything I can do to be helpful or supportive? One thing you may get value from is XYZ. It helps you find guests to interview while monetizing your podcast at the same time. If you're not looking for guests, you can also be guests on other podcasts. I released this short video about it on, then the video link is provided. It's a YouTube link. If there's anything I can do to be helpful, please let me know. Smiley face, here to serve. The name XYZ, founder ABC, blah blah blah, host of the show XYZ. P.S. I'm a real person sending this email. If you're not on the mailing, I'm a real person sending this email and you're not on the mailing list. But if you don't like hearing from me, click here to let me know. So that's the that's the actual copy of the email. All the points where I said ABC, XYZ, random things like that. That's where I was trying to hide the person's identity and the business person's identity. Because I'm not trying to embarrass anyone. I'm just trying to make sure that we can learn how to promote our businesses better on the show. So let's run through things that he did right. The first thing he did right was sending the email. Because most people just populate social media and they don't really do anything else. They talk to people that are readily available in their social circles. If you remember the previous episode where I was talking to the lady who was an event planner and looking for potential brides, talking to people at church, things like that. That was part of the advice or insight that I had for her, that it's time that she has to start expanding beyond her personal circles. So that's a mistake a lot of people make. You just put everything up on Instagram or you build a website and you assume that the whole world is going to come and find you, and that's not the case. Eventually, you have to go beyond your people in your social circle. You've spoken to your mom, your dad, your aunties, your uncles, your brothers and sisters, friends. You've spoken to people in church. And, yes, it's good to start with that, but eventually you have to start reaching out to strangers. Another thing he did right was making it easy for people to unsubscribe. There's that thing at the end of, I'm a real person, click here to let me know, blah, blah, blah. And the reason why you should make it easy to unsubscribe is this. If you don't make it easy for people to unsubscribe or you hide the link, people will start marking you as spam if they're tired of receiving your emails. Now, there are a couple of people like me. I'm a hustler. I'm in the business. I don't want to hurt anybody's email deliverability. So I really look for that unsubscribe link, or I keep deleting. It's only after they become a nuisance that I start sending people to spam. But there are folks like my wife, for instance, and my mom and my mother-in-law who can't be bothered. If you look like spam, they spam you right away. And you send enough emails to people. Let's say you send these sorts of emails to 1,000 people, and then 500 of them move you to spam. It's giving a very strong signal to Yahoo, to Google, or the email provider that this guy might be a scammer, might be a spammer, might be whatever, and it makes it more difficult for your emails to be delivered in the future. So it sounds counterintuitive, but it's something you should do. Make it very easy to unsubscribe. If you don't, the only option you're leaving people with is for them to mark you as spam. Now remember, because of esprit de corps, I'm a business person, I'm a hustler, I'm not going to spam this dude. I'm not going to spam this dude. I'll just click on unsubscribe. But the average person is going to unsubscribe you really, really, really swiftly because people are getting hundreds of emails every day. Then, another thing he did right was he tried to be personal. Official sounding emails can be off putting. So, people who send emails, especially those of you who studied law, lawyers in Nigeria, you guys are really guilty of this because I receive all those outreach, not just in emails, but also on LinkedIn, reaching out on LinkedIn. And then your messages are full of hitherto, therefore, see forthwith, all those kind of terms. It can be off putting. So, yes, that's how you guys are taught to write in law school. And I'm not just picking on lawyers because my first degree was in law. So, that's actually my home community. That's where I started my career. So yes, that's how we were taught to write. Okay, maybe that's not how we were taught to write, but those are the habits that we picked up and we imbibed back in law school days. So for official purposes, yes, hitherto, therefore, see forthwith, here, sub with, attached, and all those things. But then in outreach, keep it nice and simple. Instead of hitherto, you should say because of that. Instead of see forthwith, you can say, oh, I've attached it as a PDF file. Something like that. Just keep it personal. Try and be much more personable. So, because of that, let's now look at things that you should do to follow his example. Because remember, we're trying to learn. Like I've said, email strangers. You have to you have to get into the habit of emailing strangers. Those are people that you don't know to promote your business. Because eventually you're going to run out of your personal circle. That's not going to be enough to sustain your business. So pick your entrepreneur of choice, whether it's Zuckerberg or Bezos or the person who opened up a stall in your local market. Eventually, the person had to go beyond their family members and start talking to strangers, or else you wouldn't get to know them, and you wouldn't get to see their digital footprint or get to see them in person. And then, of course, be personable. So learn to write like you talk. Eventually, there are some people that you're going to have to be much more formal with. You'll have to change tone with prospects, but you're going to know that in the future because if you reach out to someone and you're sounding real personable, and then they respond to you, and the response is hitherto, therefore, see forthwith, blah 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 blah, then it makes sense that you ought to match the communication style of the potential prospect. And so maybe this is with someone that you have to be a lot more formal. So if you start off the email saying, hi Kunle, how are you doing? Exclamation mark, and then you launch into the email, and then the response back is, dear Tavishima, thank you for your email. Then next time when you send an email, instead of hi Kunle, how are you doing? Exclamation mark, you respond the same way. Dear Kunle, comma, your last email, blah, 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 blah. So, start by being personable. You can match and change later on. And then, of course, make it easy for people to unsubscribe or for people to say no. Provide the link that they can click on. Or, if you don't have links in your email, ask them directly if they want to hear from you again. And if they don't, respect that, take them off the list, and that's it about that. Now, things that he could have done better. Understand that outreach is a conversation. This is a problem that most people fall into. Everybody thinks that outreach is something that you do to people, your pitching, your presentation, but outreach has to be conversation if it stands any chance of being effective. He just sent this email blast, he just sent it out one time, and it's clear that he didn't expect to engage in a conversation with me. He just wanted me to click on the link to his video. But that's not how actual conversations go. It's not one-sided. And there's nothing that says that business conversations have to be that way as well. Each paragraph in this email could have been a separate email that would have gotten me talking and would have increased rapport with me. That is the goal. Because you can copy and paste a block of text does not mean that you should. Now let's examine how each paragraph here could have sparked off a conversation and could have increased rapport. So excuse me, let me get my tablet, let me open up my email. Let me see, where's the email again? Sorry, one moment. I didn't leave the email open. Okay, yes. So it says, hey, I found sales for the Nigerian Business Person podcast on Apple Podcast. As a fellow podcaster, I wanted to reach out to connect. How's the show going? Is there anything I can do to be helpful or supportive? Okay, even in this first paragraph, it's too chunky, too many questions. This would have been a very good email. Hey, I found your podcast on Apple Podcaster. I'm a fellow podcaster. I wanted to reach out to connect. How is your show going? Question mark. Leave it at that. Now, I know that for the untrained business person listening to this show, it looks like that is incomplete. But the thing is, at least it sparks a conversation. Remember, we're trying to get a conversation. We are trying to get a response. If we're not getting a conversation or a response, we're not going to be able to get the opportunity to sell. I won't be able to get the opportunities to build rapport. So in this case, let me repeat. Hi, I found your show on Apple Podcasts. I'm a fellow podcaster. I wanted to reach out to connect. How is your show going? Question mark. I would have responded. Now you see, that way you're getting in a conversation with someone. And there's more room to advance the conversation later on. Is there anything I can do to be helpful or supportive? Yes, when I replied, that could have been another email reply, to that reply. I would have done some, back and forth on, problems that we're having with promoting our shows and things like that. Okay, so that's just an example about how instead of, this is one paragraph, two paragraphs, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 6 paragraphs. So instead of sending one email with 6 paragraphs, this could have been a 6 email thread, as in one paragraph, the subject of only one email. The person responds, good. You're not having a conversation. If you're having a conversation, it's easier to sell rather. If you're making a pitch, it's harder to sell. So please, if you are going to do this sort of thing, take your email, look at it. You have 10 paragraphs. That's a little bit too much. Break it down, send one email. The goal is not to make your presentation immediately. The goal is to get the person talking. So understand, please, outreach is a conversation. If you're sending messages on Twitter, outreach is a conversation. The goal is to have a conversation. If you're sending an email, the goal is to have a conversation. If you pick up the phone, the goal is to have a conversation. If you go to their office, the goal is to have a conversation. If you go to their house, the goal is to have a conversation. The goal is not to sit down there and say, I'm the best, I'm the brightest, I have the most superior version, these are the best features, this is there for you in the market, click and buy now, give me your ATM card, buy now, send me a check, buy now, send a deposit to this account. That is not the goal. The goal is to have a conversation. Please, guys, remember that. So that's something you could have done better. Each paragraph should have been a separate email. Then, don't assume that people have a problem. You need to ask problem questions and then keep quiet. When you keep quiet, the person is going to answer, and that will determine whether you need to make a pitch or you need to make a presentation or how you go about it. Now, let's go back to that email. Sorry, one moment. I need to open it up again. Okay, it's open. I just need to scroll. Okay, yes. So, hey, I found your podcast on, I'm not going to use the words I would have used. Hey, I found your podcast on Apple Podcast. As a fellow podcast, I wanted to reach out to connect. How's your show going? Now, in this case, the person would have started talking about, let's say the person responds. The person might say, oh, the show is doing very well. And you guys start talking about the problems that they're having with attracting show hosts or maybe monetizing the show, things like that. Eventually, you would have started talking about the problem. And then it's at that point you would have now started saying, oh, one thing you might get value from is my app, my service, my whatever, XYZ. It helps you find guests and monetize your podcast at the same time. So you can see that by asking questions, apologies for all that noise coming in the background, the staff of my neighbor, he uses his residential building as a commercial kitchen. It's unfortunate, but this is some of the indiscipline that we're subjected to in Nigeria. So his staff members are outside singing and causing a ruckus. So anyway, where were we? Okay, so don't assume that people have a problem. If you ask problem questions and then you keep quiet, they will answer, and then that will determine whether you need to make a pitch or not. So in this case, how's your podcast going? Question mark. Keep quiet. If the person responds and says the podcast is going really good, then maybe there's no sale there. But if the person says the podcast is going okay, but I have a few problems, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you will now be able to jump in and make a pitch saying, oh, I have something that can solve that problem. My app, my service, my this, my that. So don't assume people have a problem. Ask questions and then keep quiet. In this case, after asking how is your podcast, eventually he would have asked the other questions. Do you have a problem monetizing your podcast? And then you keep quiet and listen. Eventually you'll be able to get to the other question. Do you have a problem booking guests for your show? And then keep quiet and listen. And from the answers, you get to know, where it is that you have to, where you have to lean into. Now, another reason why you should be asking questions instead of assuming that people have a problem is your pitch is going to be ineffective. Now, his own pitch was, click here to monetize your podcast, click here to get to get guests for your show. And I've said so time and time again on the podcast. Anybody who is reaching out to me assuming that those are my two biggest problems is getting it wrong. I do not interview people on this show. I've had over 612 episodes and I have only interviewed one guest. Now, you can do some research on people, listen to a few podcast episodes, or maybe just look at the titles and it gives you a sense of whether they interview people or not. I've never interviewed anybody. So booking guests on the show is not a problem. Then, my goal is not to monetize the podcast. I'm not trying to get you guys to pay me money, or at least not yet. My goal is to have the podcast out here as a credibility play so that when I am negotiating speaking engagements, training sessions, private consultation services, I have a body of work that shows that I'm the shit and that I know what it is that I talk about. My podcast is a credibility play. So somebody who reaches out to me and doesn't assume that I have the problems of getting guests or monetizing, they will be able to figure out that, oh, okay, this dude is trying to make a credibility play, and they're going to be able to make an appropriate pitch. In that case, you let me know if you have a service that helps me with my credibility, or I don't know. I can't think of anything because I'm not in that market, so I can't think of anything. But bottom line, find out what the person's problem is before you make your pitch, or else you're going to waste your time making the wrong pitch. And every single person that reaches out to me, podcast related, they always assume that I have these two problems, but that's not my problem. That's not what I'm going to use the show for. So stop assuming that people have a problem. I get that all the time. I wear plastic wristwatches only. I like Casio. Casio is good. They're rugged. They're water resistant. They never die. I've never changed the battery on the Casio. And because I wear a plastic wristwatch, people walk up to me all the time trying to sell me fancy stuff. Have a conversation with the person first and figure out what it is that they like. I don't like fancy wristwatches. Everything corrodes on my wrist. I got a Rolex. Okay, well, it was not a Rolex. I think it was a Patek also. My father got me. No, he didn't give me a Patek. I can't remember. One of those watches, not Rolex. Rolex is really expensive. What was it? A Seiko. Yes, it was a Seiko that looked like a Rolex. The thing corroded. Everything corrodes on my wrist. I do not wear fancy watches. I do not wear metal wristwatches. But everybody just sees me like, oh, this guy is a grown ass man. He's wearing a plastic watch. Therefore, he has a problem. Let me sell him something golden or much more befitting of his status. But no, I don't do that. I only wear plastic wristwatches. And my darling wife, the last wristwatch she got me, is plastic. It's a Garmin. It's a tracker. It's water resistant. I mean, absolutely everything I love. But that's because she knows what it is that I need. She didn't assume that I have a problem and then go and get me something fancy, a Rolex or a Patek Philippe or a Seiko or whatever. So stop assuming. If you sell wristwatches and you see someone with a plastic wristwatch, don't assume that he has a problem. Ask, figure out what he likes. And if he likes plastic wristwatches, then by all means, put away the Rolex, put away the gold and the silver. Bring out the Casio, bring out the Swatch, bring out the Garmin, bring out the Fitbit, bring out all the plastic stuff. Okay? So, what next? Okay, we're close to 20 minutes now, so let me just wrap it up. Now, stop providing links, stop providing resources, stop providing materials that people have not asked for. They haven't asked for anything, so what are you providing? I didn't say I was interested, I wanted in the app. I didn't say I wanted to see the video, but he's sending all kinds of links. Another reason why I should stop doing that is that it hurts your deliverability. This email that the person said didn't go to my inbox, it went to promotions, and this is obviously why. When you send a lot of promotional material, Some people like Google and I think Yahoo is being much more proactive on this thing. They just assume that, okay, this person might be a spammer. Let me just move him to promotions folder so it doesn't enter into the person's regular inbox. So stop with the links and the resources. Engage in a conversation first. Find out exactly what it is that the person needs. That will determine what it is that you should send. You should be having conversations and qualifying and discovery conversations before you send the material. The whole point of qualifying is to figure out, who am I talking to? What does the person need? The whole point of discovery is to figure out, is there a problem here that is worth solving? It's only after you've had those conversations that you know what it is to send. So if I'm a podcaster and I'd like to get people on my show and I'd like to monetize, it looks like I'm interested. It is only then that you send the material. And besides, how do you know what I like to do and what I don't like to do? Lots of people sending me links for videos. I don't like watching videos. I prefer text, because with text there's no sound. I can look at it, get a fair sense, and then respond to you. But everybody starts with the video. Have the conversation, figure out what it is that they want, and then you ask them, okay, these are the resources that we have. We've got the PDF, we've got the video, we've got the podcast. How do you like to consume your information, or which of them are you much more interested in? And then the person who likes videos is going to tell you, send me the video. And cool, you know now that this is the person you send videos to. Another person is going to say, no videos, please. I'm at the office. I work 9 to 5. I don't want my boss hearing me play anything. So please send me a PDF. I can read it discreetly. My line manager is not going to know. When I get off work, then you and I can continue talking. So try and figure that out first. All right. So I think I was becoming ranty, so I'll just leave it here for today. So that's all for today. Remember, things you can do to follow the guy's example. Let's email strangers. Let's be personable. Let's make it easy for people to unsubscribe. And remember that when we do outreach, we should be having a conversation. We shouldn't be pitching at people. Don't assume people have a problem. That's also another reason why you should be having a conversation with people. If not, you're going to be selling silver Rolexes to people who just can't be bothered. People who are okay with a Casio wristwatch. Then stop providing links in your emails and resources. It's hurting deliverability. Once you have a conversation with a person, you guys have emailed back and forth a couple of times. If you send a video link or a PDF or something, yeah, that's not a problem. But have the conversation first. In fact, I think that should be the biggest takeaway for today. Have conversations with people. Stop copying and stop pasting at people, because we can do it easily on computer. Control click, control paste, because you can do the same thing on the phone. Long press, copy, long press, paste doesn't mean that we should. So, so that's all for today. Remember, you can subscribe for free. The name of the show is the Sales for the Nigerian Business Person podcast. You can find the show on Spotify, on Google, Apple iTunes, Pocket Casts, Anchor, Overcast, or any other podcast player of your choice. Also, remember to connect with me on LinkedIn. Yes, I'm on Instagram. For those of you who keep finding me, yes, I'm on Instagram. Yes, I'm on TikTok, but I don't spend much time on them anymore. I'm only going to be promoting and connecting with people on LinkedIn. So connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm your host, Taveshima Ayede. And yes, it rhymes with Hiroshima. So I'll see you guys at the next episode.